The economic data, Jesse, the macroeconomic data that we see on ECO Go that we use all the time. I mean, GDP's pretty darn solid. Inflation coming down, maybe not where the Fed exactly wants it, but coming down. The retail sales numbers can seem
still
to
strong.
be pretty darn strong. But you still get that sense that K-shaped economy is still out there. Not everyone is participating, and it kind of begs the question, how are the small businesses doing out there in the U.S. economy? Gene Marks can help us out on that. Gene Marks is the founder of the Marks Group. Hey, Gene, talk to us about kind of your clients, your small business owners. How are they doing out there?
First of all, good morning. And I can tell you that small businesses themselves, when you try to talk about their, how they're generally doing, it's a little tough to generalize only because there's 33 million small businesses.
Wow.
Guys, I mean, there's, all across the country, the businesses themselves make up half of our GDP, half of our employees. When I, survey my clients and my readers and my community, kind of depends on the industry that they're in, or it depends on the region that they're in. I mean, some are stronger than others. But if you want to do like just a general take, I would say that 2024 has been a challenging year for most small businesses. I just did a piece for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I interviewed about a dozen small businesses in the Philadelphia area, retailers, distributors, whatnot, how they were preparing for the holiday season and how 2024 has been very very anecdotal. And every single one of them across the board had said that they were hoping that the holidays were going to be saving them this year because they have been struggling. So again, tough to generalize because again, some businesses have done better than others. But if you were to do that for the 30 plus million small businesses, I would sum up 2024 as a challenging year. Also, one final thing, I wrote a piece for The Hill where I summed up a bunch of surveys that were taken by Bank of America and Verizon and other places for the National Federation of Independent Businesses. Those surveys also found the same thing. Revenues themselves were flat or even a little bit down, and profits themselves were also flat among those surveys. And this is through September 30th of 2024. So I hope that gives you some indication as to where their heads are at right now.
To your point, Jim, when it comes to those small businesses, they're typically highly indebted and also really sensitive to higher interest rates. So especially over the past few years, as the Fed was really aggressive with raising borrowing costs, they were obviously more reliant on kind of cheap labor as well, in addition to what's happening when you think about rate cuts potentially relieving them. But also, we might not see as aggressive rate cuts next year. But also, the other caveat, too, when you have smaller companies that are more dependent on cheaper labor, how will mass deportations from the Trump administration end up affecting small businesses to that end?
That's a great question, Jess. And I get asked that question a lot about mass deportation. So, my understanding is, and you guys correct me if you think this is wrong, but the idea between the Trump administration's mass deportation is to deport illegal or undocumented immigrants. So when you look at it at face value, that should have no impact on small businesses, because why would small businesses be hiring illegal or undocumented people, right? So, on the one hand, you have some small businesses that are making sure they're doing what they need to do among the law, and they are not hiring undocumented immigrants. And most of my clients are that way. But then you do have some small businesses that are practicing that. I'm not quite sure, what the impact will be on them. And I'm not quite sure that most of us who are complying with the law care what the impact would be on those businesses, because if they are hiring undocumented or illegal people that tend to be deported, again, they were breaking the law from the very beginning, and they're going to have to start getting legal if they want to compete fairly. So, that's the impact that I see for those clients of mine that are complying with the law and making sure that their employees have the right documentation. They're not going to see any impact from this type of thing. But for those companies that have not been complying with the law, they'll be impacted by it. But then again, maybe they should be impacted by it if they're hiring people that don't have the right documentation.
Another aspect of the incoming Trump administration, at least at this point in terms of speculation, is potentially lower taxes. Give us a sense of I got to think that's going to be good for the small business owner. How big of an issue is that?
Massive. So I've been right. So if you haven't figured it out, and for any of you guys watching me on YouTube, I'm actually a certified public accountant. So that should come as no surprise to anybody when you look at this face. So taxes has been a big issue for us this year. And next year is going to be a tax Armageddon. I mean, there's going to be such a huge change in taxes that impacts small businesses and all of us individually. For the small business owner, there is one giant, well, there are a few, but there's one giant tax deduction that is hopefully going to be preserved. It's the qualified business income tax deduction. That's where if you run a pass-through business, most businesses are pass-through, which means they're an S corporation or a partnership. So whatever money you make at the business level passes through to your individual tax return. Well, right now, because of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we get to deduct 20% of that income before it hits our personal return. So if I make $1,000 this year, only $800 gets taxed at the individual level. That provision is expected to expire at the end of 2025. It's going to have a huge impact on the small businesses that have enjoyed that deduction since 2017. Now with President-elect Trump coming into office and hopefully with congressional backing, he'll have the ability to either extend or make that deduction permanent. That will have a huge impact on many small businesses. Other deductions for research and development and also for the purchase of capital equipment using bonus depreciation, those deductions have either expired already or they've been going away. They're expected to be restored 100% under the Trump administration and a GOP Congress, and that also will be a huge tax benefit to businesses. So, I have to say, during the election, when I was looking at my personal tax bill as a business owner, it would have gone up significantly if Vice President Harris had been elected. But now, the way the election turned out, I think myself and a lot of small business owners will continue to see lower taxes. And obviously, that's a huge expense for us. So the lower we can keep it, the better.
All right, we'll see who pays for it. Gene Marks, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Gene Marks, founder of the Marks Group there.